In this video, I turn a Cassian Andor Funko Pop into a Gerard Way Yo Gabba Gabba Pop. So, I was watching the My Chemical Romance Yo Gabba Gabba video where they performed the awesome song Every Snowflake's Different Just Like You, and I thought, if only there was a Funko Pop of Yo Gabba Gabba Gerard Way. But, unfortunately, there isn't. Then I remembered. No pop, no prop. I'll just have to make it myself. First, I'll make a very detailed drawing of the pop I'm creating. Then I go shopping for a pop I can use as a base. I ended up going with this Cassian Andor pop, which seems a bit of a strange choice, but in the words of Tom Petty and more recently Phoebe Bridgers, it'll all work out. Well, hopefully. So, the pop arrived, and it was a bobblehead, but that's okay. In fact, it is so much easier to remove the head as they usually can just be twisted off. I then needed to remove the parts that were not required. I used a very sharp craft knife to do this. It is extremely important to remember to make sure your fingers are behind the blade at all times. This is definitely not foreshadowing or anything. Yes, that is a plaster on my finger, but thankfully it was just a little cut. I think maybe Cassian Andor is not very pleased about being turned into Gerard Way and is trying to sabotage me. Once all the unwanted parts were removed, I sanded everything down using my trusty pound shop emery boards. I needed to fill in some gaps and mould a new piece of the hood fur, so for that I used milliput. Milliput is a two-part putty that you mix in equal amounts. It sets hard in around 4 hours, so you do have a limited amount of working time with it. I use various sculpting tools, but one of my favourites is just a plain old cocktail stick. I also sculpted the rest of the belt with milliput, but it didn't look very good, so I removed it. I decided to remake it with green stuff, which is similar to milliput, except it is still a bit flexible when set, as opposed to the milliput, which is very hard but can be quite brittle. They can be mixed together for the best of both worlds, though. I know, it is a bit overkill to use the pasta roller for such a tiny piece of putty, but it is just so satisfying to use. I made the detail on the belt first with a cocktail stick, but I hated it, so I redone it with a craft knife. In the Yo Gabba Gabba Every Snowflake Is Different video, Gerard Way wears a ski mask, so that gave me an excuse to use the pasta roller machine again. This time I used milliput. I made a template as I needed to make sure the mask would be symmetrical, and there's no way I could do that freehand. With all the moulding finished, it is time to prime. But before I do that, I need to clean the pop. This is to make sure there is no mould release residue from the factory. I just use water and a toothbrush for this, and yes, I should have done this at the start. Whoops! I primed the pop with Viejo Mecha Airbrush Primer, which I thinned a little with Viejo Airbrush Thinner. I start off with a light mist coat before building up to a heavier final coat. After I had primed, I decided I was still not very happy with the belt, so I cut it off and started again with the green stuff. This time though, I used a cable tie to imprint the design into the green stuff. Not gonna lie, I was pretty pleased with myself about that little hack. Now that the moulding is definitely finished, I airbrushed the head with Viejo Premium Airbrush colour in Flesh Tone. I would love to say that nothing ever goes wrong when airbrushing, but I had a real problem trying to spray this. It was working fine and then nada, nothing. It seemed like Cassian was trying to sabotage me again. Turns out I had forgotten to turn my compressor on. Dope. While that was drying, I masked off and airbrushed the jacket. I used Viejo Game Air in Magic Blue. This is one of my favourite colours from Viejo. It is literally magical. After some more masking, it was time to airbrush the hair. I was so excited to do this, as Gerard's hair in the Yo Gabba Gabba episode is the awesome bright red Killjoy hair that he had back then. I used Viejo Model Air Red. It is such an amazing vibrant colour. I just love it so much. When everything was dry, I hand painted some of the smaller details, including the trousers and the gloves. Next to be airbrushed was the boots. I used Viejo Game Air in blue, which I put on in lots of layers to get a more navy blue finish. At this point, I realised that the ears were a bright red. I swear I wasn't talking about you behind your back, Gerard. I just forgot to mask them off. So, after I sorted that out, I got on with hand painting the collar and the fur of the jacket. The fur took a long time to get the effect I wanted. I started with a light brown, then I used very watered down black to create the variations. And finally, I dry brushed white onto the fur tips. Lastly, I painted the white shirt and the belt details. With all the painting done, I gave the figure a blast of Viejo Premium Satin Varnish, and then it was time for my favourite part of the project, decals. As usual, I created the decals in Affinity Designer and printed them out with Mr. Decal Waterslide decal paper. I always make sure to print extra decals in case I mess them up. I applied the decals with Microscale Industries, Microset and Microsol. Microsol is really great for helping the decals form to any raised areas. It doesn't look like it's going to work on the raised eyes here, but after it dries you'll find it has formed nicely around the bump. If there are still any wrinkles left, I just apply a bit more Microsol. I wonder if that would work on my face. I'm joking. Please don't put Microsol on your skin. After all the decals were applied, I airbrushed on another coat of satin, and then I put the head back on. I wasn't quite finished though. I needed to get rid of the Star Wars logo from the stand. I used some acetone to remove it, but yeah, it reacted a bit with the plastic underneath. This was not great, but it's fine, as I made a Yo Gabba Gabba decal to hide the melted plastic. I also needed to make a microphone to replace Cassian's blaster. I used green stuff again for this. After I painted the microphone, I used some black thread to add the detail to whatever the top part of the mic is called. I cut the microphone into 2 pieces and attached it to the figure with Araldite 2-part epoxy glue. I used the same glue to attach the ski mask, and with that, the figure was complete. Well, except for the box. As always, I designed the box in Affinity Designer with a basic template I found online. I went for this nice pink background, which looks great with the Yo Gabba Gabba logos. Then, I printed out the designs and laminated them. Finally, I cut out the designs and assembled everything with double-sided tape. I reused the window from the Cassian box, and with that, the figure was complete. And here's the final result.